it's over. The WHL finals have concluded, and the Prince Albert Raiders have defeated the Vancouver Giants in overtime in Game 7 to get their way into the Memorial Cup. This was incredible. But I'm not going to focus on that today. That was a great game. A lot of Vancouverites were watching that. I know, because everybody on Twitter was basically buzzing about this game. The Giants didn't win, but Vancouver Giants star defender Bowen Byram led the league in playoff points this year, which, according to Rick Dhaliwal, has never happened before, which is absolutely nuts. With this, Bowen Byram solidifies himself as probably the second best North American skater in the draft class. I know NHL Central Scouting, they're really high on Doc, they're really high on Cousins, but I don't think, for me personally, that and their performances were above what Byram was able to do this year. And that's why Byram is my number 3 in the draft. So let's talk a little bit about Bowen Byram and his NHL future. Whether that be with the Chicago Blackhawks at 3rd overall or the Colorado Avalanche at 5th overall, it's probably going to be there. Let's not talk about LA in that way because he's probably not going to go down to number 5. So let's just focus on the top 4. Now let's just establish right here, Bowen Byram is not going to New Jersey, he's not going to New York. That Capo, Kako, and Jack Hughes battle has really been taking the league by storm. That Bowen Byram, despite everything amazing that he did this year, he's not going into that conversation. This season, though, in the WHL, Bowen Byram finished up with 71 points in 67 WHL games. He was second in Vancouver Giants points, and his 26 goals, that's the best performance goal-wise by any U18 WHL defenseman in 14 years. Bowen Byram legitimately made a case for himself for being probably the best defender the WHL is getting in a really long time. When it comes to points per game in total, Bowen Byram is tied with Ty Smith for the lead in that, over Ivan Provorov and Morgan Riley, who I believe are both very good players. Ty Smith, it's actually interesting to note, he was playing on a team that was a little bit more stacked than the Vancouver Giants. Ty Smith was accompanied by some really good offensive threats, Kyler Yamamoto, Jared Anderson-Dolan, etc. Bowen Byram didn't necessarily have a cast that great with him, so the fact that he was able to match up with Smith was very good. But Byram also led the team in playoff scoring this year too, and he led the league in playoff points as well, which is something that a defender has never done, let alone at the U18 level. So Byram is just in a totally different class of his own, which is easy to understand why. He's an elite two-way defender, and I say two-way despite him getting so many points because his defensive status and his defensive capabilities are probably a little bit underrated in my opinion. I think he's really good defensively, but he does have a lot to work on. Just that ability of being engaged and keeping up with the play, that's something that he has to get his mind into. And overall, if he's able to work on those aspects of his game, which I believe he certainly will be able to, he's going to be a legit threat to become a number 1 defender in the NHL one day, which is why we're going to talk about his potential and his future here. Whether or not he goes to the Blackhawks at number 3 or the Avalanche at number 4, he's really setting himself up to be with a fantastic NHL team. If he goes to Chicago, he's going to be on their number 1 pairing down the line with Adam Bogfist. Imagine that power play. Byram, Bogfist, then you got Patrick Kane, DeBrincat, and Strome, I guess. That would be amazing. And I've seen the argument that Chicago is going to take Turcotte or Podkolzin, which is okay. I've seen that argument made because Chicago already has Bogfist, Bodine, and Yuki Harju on the back end, which is totally fair to make, but the fact is, Craig Button said it best, you can't have too many good defenders, and when you have the opportunity to get a guy who can change the game like Byram can, I think it's something that you take. And even though Turcotte is really good, and I believe Turcotte is probably the 3rd best forward in the draft, I could totally see it going either way. Which is why, if they do take Alex Turcotte, or Podkolzin, I guess, let's talk about if Cale Makar was paired up with Bowen Byram in Colorado, because if Bowen Byram goes number 4 to the Avalanche, oh my goodness, that would be amazing too. Because Cale Makar and Bowen Byram would be a fantastic D pairing down the line, and if you think about it that way, Tyson Barrie becomes a top 4 guy. and Barrie is not your top pairing defender anymore. That sounds so scary, and it really just shows how good the Colorado Avalanche can really make their team if they decide to draft Bowen Byram at number 4, because Byram on that first power play with Makar, with McKinnon, with Rantanen, that's something that is absolutely nuts too. Imagine a top 4 of Byram, Makar on the first pairing, and Girard and Barrie on the second pairing. Seriously, that would terrorize teams. With amazing puck work, amazing footwork, and overall ability to move the puck, do things with the puck, start plays, finish off plays, that would just totally change their decor and their entire makeup and their entire identity as a team, if I'm going to be honest, because it would really solidify that puck-moving, quick-footed kind of style that Colorado likes to play. Because Byram can keep up. And when it comes to actually being NHL ready and all that stuff, I heard this argument basically on a few podcasts and on Twitter that I saw. Bowen Byram is a guy who could probably play in the NHL next year, and he would probably do okay, but it remains to be seen on whether or not that would be the best choice for his development, and ultimately that's the decision of the team that drafts him. But it can't be denied that if Bowen Byram were to play in the NHL next year, he probably wouldn't be all too bad. And the fact is, he's just going to develop, and he's going to become better, and he's going to be a guy who makes an impact in this league. He's going to be a top 4 for sure, and him developing his defensive ability, agility, endurance, and overall engagement, that's going to be the huge deciding factor as to whether or not he's going to be a top 4 or an elite number 1 defender. And if it were up to me, I'd probably say that he does find a way to develop those skills. So for Bowen Byram, whether it's to Colorado or to Chicago, he's going to find himself on a fantastic NHL squad that's going to welcome him with open arms, and he's going to be a game changer at the next level. So, going into the future, I could see Bowen Byram becoming totally a 50, 60, maybe even a 70-point defender. Let's cap things off at about 60, because Bowen Byram has really just exhibited everything that it takes to become a threat offensively and defensively at the NHL. And it doesn't matter whether it's Colorado or Chicago, he's going to develop, and I ultimately believe that he has what it takes to become a number 1 in this league. He is the undisputed best defender in the draft. I believe that he deserves the title of second best North American skater behind Jack Hughes. I believe he's above Doc. I believe he's above Cousins. And overall, watching those finals yesterday, everybody kind of had themselves a pillow that they were hugging tightly in bed while watching the game with anxiety because it was such a close game and it was ultimately decided in overtime. But the Vancouver Giants really did accomplish so much this season, and having 2 guys at 70 points, only 2 guys by the way, in David Koch and Bowen Byram, it really just shows how Byram was able to take charge of the game night in and night out. He started playing in the WHL as a 15, 16-year-old because there's that little loophole where the WHL guys can play 5 games as a 15-year-old. It was something like that. And Byram was playing as a 16-year-old, and the coach was like, yeah, no, this guy's a top pairing defender on our team already. Which is why people have been kind of talking about Byram for years. I remember hearing about Byram's name back when I was in high school, in grade 11, grade 12, and we were looking at the prospects in class in the library like, okay, this Bowen Byram guy, he's a local, homegrown talent, and he's a guy that's going to be drafted pretty highly in the NHL. That's awesome. And all of us, I know we were all fans of Bowen Byram just because of the proximity-wise to the Pacific Coliseum at the PNE and the Langley Event Center, and Byram is just giving us so much to talk about here, and I'm so happy to see everybody in the NHL world hyped about Byram because all of us in Vancouver, we've been excited for this guy for years. And I don't know the guy personally, obviously. I mean, he's from Cranbrook. I'm not from Cranbrook, but just seeing everything he's been doing is making me so happy as a Canucks fan, as a Vancouver Giants fan, as a Vancouver guy myself, and I know he's making all of us proud. Which is why, no matter where he goes, we're always going to cheer him on. He's going to be one of our fan-favorite defenders, and I'm just so excited to see what the future holds for Bowen Byram. No matter where it is, I think the NHL's got a long-term future for this young guy, because he certainly deserves it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Social links are gaming, and bye.